Ukraine was invaded. It's trying to defend itself. People are now attacking Zelensky, that he's ungrateful and he's this and he's that. He's a man who's trying to save his people and his country. And they've seen absolute horror. Put yourself in his shoes. And of course, he never expected this when he became president of Ukraine, but he certainly held up to it. I want you to take a look at this from PBS NewsHour last week. The children of war in Ukraine. Where are the children of war in Russia? Well, there aren't any, because Russia wasn't attacked. But there are tens of thousands of Ukrainian children in Russia, because they've been moved by trains into the interior of Russia, where they're being adopted out to Russian parents. And it's horrendous. I mean, they're literally enslaving these kids in Ukraine and taking them into Russia. Go ahead.
For these women, the return to Ukrainian soil is everything. The first time they can really believe it, that they got their children back.
I'm exhausted but happy that I'm finally in my homeland, in Ukraine. I'm happy that I'm here with my child. That's the most important thing. Everything else is little things in life. We just need to get home, to see our cows and pigs.
They have crossed over from Belarus after a journey of some 3,000 miles to get their children back from Russian-controlled areas of Ukraine.
They had a lot of questions. For example, whom do you visit there? My son. Why do you want to go visit him? It's my son.
They are just some of what Ukraine says are as many as 19,000 families separated when the Russian military and Ukrainian collaborators working at the children's schools moved their children to Russian-occupied areas, saying it was for their safekeeping and never returning them. Another boy, Sasha, is rushed into a quiet car. He has autism and is nonverbal. After 6 months away from his family, he is struggling with physical touch and night terrors, his mother tells us. Almost all men are not permitted to leave the country because of the war effort. It fell on these women, many who had rarely left their hometowns before, to go on a dangerous journey to get them back. That journey was long, fraught, and secret. But as their bus pulled into Kiev, they were met by a throng of international press. While they were traveling into Russian-controlled territory, the International Criminal Court announced that Russia's deportation of their children was a war crime and issued an arrest warrant for President Vladimir Putin and Children's Rights Commissioner Maria Lvova-Belova. She herself took custody of a Ukrainian teenager from Mariupol last year. Journalists Amanda Bailey and Anton Stuka chronicled the women's journey and returned to visit them and the children after the initial media frenzy died down. Svetlana, now back in Kherson after retrieving her granddaughter, remembers a harrowing journey where she had to be careful what she told Russian border officials about her visit's true meaning.
They started questioning me about where I was going and why. They took phone numbers and said, look, if we call these phone numbers, if this information is not true, you're going to suffer very, very badly. I said, I'm not lying to you. I'm telling you the truth. So they let me go. I was frightened, almost crying.
Svetlana's granddaughter Nastia is finally home in Kherson in southern Ukraine, liberated from Russian control last fall. Nastia was taken to a summer campgrounds inside Russian-controlled territory. The camps seen here in promotional videos were used before the war as holiday spots for children. After the full-scale invasion in 2022, Russian authorities started transferring Ukrainian children there from territories they had seized, telling parents they were being taken to protect them from the fighting. Some, like Nastia's grandmother, initially gave permission for them to go for 2 weeks, but they were never returned. Those working there were, according to the children interviewed here, pro-Russian Ukrainians and encouraged Russian propaganda amongst them. Svetlana says Nastya was not physically harmed, but her experiences at the Russian camp frightened her. Nastya's wider family now find her changed, distant.
She doesn't trust people. Even the other kids noticed. Why don't you talk to us, they ask. No, you give all your attention to your animals, to your dog. She spends a lot of time with dogs. She just wants to be alone day after day.
Her grandmother's journey to bring Nastya home came just in time. The camp management were planning to move the children out before the busy summer season of paying guests. The children were under increasing danger of being moved into Russia, made Russian citizens, and put up for adoption.
The camp management told us we would be taken under Russian custody on April 7th if we were not taken away by our families. They would give us citizenship and a passport, just like this, or just send us to different camps. They could take us to Moscow, to St. Petersburg.
Like Svetlana, Natalia was interrogated by Russian border officials as she went to retrieve her 15-year-old son, Artem. Lawyers for the local charity Save Ukraine had prepped her.
I had to tell the truth that I was going to visit my child. I gave the address of the school in Perevelsk and Artem's phone number. They asked how he got there. I told him they were evacuated because there was shelling there. I did the best that I could.
Artem remembers the day collaborators at his school handed him over to Russians.
We didn't want to go when we found out that we were being evacuated. Everyone started to panic. Then the soldiers came, put us in the military truck, and took us away. The little ones cried. They were scared, but it was too late.
It was a month before a teacher gave him a phone to call his mother, he said. At the boarding school he was taken to in the occupied region of Luhansk, he described being indoctrinated with Russian propaganda.
They explained to us that Russia is good and Ukraine is bad. They said that Russia restores everything, but Ukraine only destroys everything.
Some of the teenagers had much darker experiences. Nina, who is 16 years old, was forced to do military training. Pictured here in a black ski mask, she said she was trained to use a gun.
We had competitions mostly on Saturday and Sunday. There were 3 teams, and your teams competed to dismantle machine guns, look for mines, and lob grenades.
For Nina's mother, Alina, her reunion, after she too traveled into Russian-controlled areas to get her back, was all the more emotional.
Little by little, she told me everything, even showed photos where they were with the guns, swarming up ropes and shooting. They had a physical examination, blood tests. I have all the documents. I think they were being prepared for something. Since she had the complete health screening, ultrasounds, all her organs were screened.
Nina struggled more than most when she got home. Her mother moved away from their front-line home with her, got her a comfort dog, and continues to try to help her heal.
This all just reminds me of Stalin and Hitler, that stuff, re-education camps for children and then sending them out to be adopted by Russian families here. You saw the head Nudnik there in Russia shaking Putin's hands, and that she has adopted a Ukrainian teenager. They're not adopting them, they're enslaving them. That's what's taking place, and it's only one side that's doing this. It's not the other side. Ukraine was invaded, it's trying to defend itself. People are now attacking Zelensky, that he's ungrateful and he's this and he's that. He's a man who's trying to save his people and his country. And they've seen absolute horror. Put yourself in his shoes.
Want to see more Mark Levin? Go to levintv.com and subscribe now.